Welcome to Born to Win. I'm Brian Proctor. I have created these podcast episodes around timeless principles that I learned from my father, Bob Proctor. And when understood and applied, these principles can change the direction of your life. Today, we're going to talk about specific abilities each of us possess, but few people develop. And that is our higher mental faculties. I want you to listen closely here because each of these higher mental faculties, when properly understood and applied, has the potential to dramatically influence the direction and quality of your life. Yet very few people truly understand what they are, let alone intentionally use them. I believe these faculties deserve deep study. You can, and likely should, dedicate part of your consistent study time to really understanding how they work and how they are showing up in your life, because their value goes far beyond what I can fully cover in a short podcast episode. What I want you to grasp right now is this. These faculties, they're important. Important enough for you to begin paying serious attention to whether they are working for you or whether they are lying dormant and underdeveloped. Because when you begin consciously using them, you stop drifting through life and start directing it with far greater awareness and intention. So let's start by naming them. Imagination, will, perception, intuition, reason, and memory. There's a good chance that you're already using each of these faculties, likely without conscious awareness. And when that is the case, you may be using them in the wrong direction. Now, it's not surprising that so few people understand that they have these tools. In school, we learn about the 5 physical senses that we share with the rest of the animal kingdom, the ability to see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. But we were never taught about our higher mental faculties that separate us from the other animals. First, think about how you are moving through life using your 5 senses: what you see, hear, touch, taste, and smell. Are you allowing the outer world to determine your inner state, meaning your mood, your attitude, and general outlook in life? If you are, you most likely have not developed the higher abilities within you. The mental tools we are discussing here today allow us to create consciously, regulate emotion, shift perspective, direct thought, and alter the direction of our lives. My father often said animals live completely by instinct and sensory factors. Human beings have the ability to rise above them through their higher mental faculties. Now think about that. Most people are highly educated in external things, but they've never been taught how their own minds work. And because of that, they live reactively instead of creatively. Let me repeat that. They live reactively instead of creatively. These faculties, they're not abstract spiritual concepts. They are practical mental abilities. So let's start with imagination, the workshop of your mind. Imagination is one of the most powerful faculties that we possess because imagination allows you to mentally see something before it physically exists. You use your imagination to create something out of nothing. Often this is easily done by imagining the worst of something. The beautiful thing is, you can take that power and use it to create a new beginning for yourself. The imagination allows you to take an idea, something that is non-physical, and turn it into something physical. The key is to learn to use your imagination to create the experiences that you want most in life. Think about it this way. Everything created by humanity existed first in imagination. Every building, every invention, every business, every movement, someone imagined it first. Most people use imagination unconsciously. Again, think about how often and easily you have used your imagination in the wrong direction. Have you ever imagined failure or rejection? What about the possibility of embarrassment or even worst-case scenarios? When you use your imagination this way, you will find you emotionally react to things that haven't even happened. That's imagination working against you. But imagination can also work for you. Begin by asking yourself, what is the best thing that could happen to me today? Then direct yourself to imagine possibility, growth, solutions, new outcomes, even an improved identity. Because when you repeatedly hold those images in your mind and you fall in love with this idea, you are magnetizing your desire. And when that happens, you begin altering your behavior by taking different actions and producing different results. Athletes use visualization constantly. Why? Because mentally rehearsing an action strengthens neural pathways associated with performance. The brain begins preparing for what is repeatedly imagined. That's a powerful tool living inside of you. Think about an architect designing a building. Before the first shovel touches the ground, the building already exists mentally. Then the blueprint, followed by construction. Your life works the same way. Imagination is the blueprint. Your actions build from there. Next, let's talk about the faculty that changes meaning. Perception. We talked about this in the Law of Polarity episode because perception determines how you interpret experience. It controls what you become aware of in your environment and how you attach meaning to it. Two people can experience the same situation and create completely different meanings from it. One sees failure, another sees feedback. One sees rejection, another sees redirection. Same event, different perception. In our conscious thinking mind, perception shows up as the choice made as to what to focus on. In the subconscious mind, perception determines what we become aware of. Two main criteria determine what gets through: what agrees with our beliefs and what our mind believes is important to us. What it does is allow you to mentally step back from appearances and look deeper. Instead of reacting immediately, you pause and ask, what else could this mean? That question changes emotional experience, and emotional experience influences behavior. Next, I want to touch on the faculty of reason. Reason, like all of the higher mental faculties, it's incredibly important to understand and develop, because when you consciously use your faculty of reason, you engage your ability to think critically instead of reacting automatically. You begin evaluating the ideas and thoughts entering your mind rather than simply accepting them. You pause, you observe, you question. And in that process, you create space between stimulus and response. That space is powerful because it allows you to decide whether you are going to emotionally attach to a thought or reject it based on the value and truth of the information that you are receiving. This is one of the ways you begin taking control of your mind instead of allowing conditioning or emotion to control you. And the truth is, many of the people we encounter each day are allowing emotion to make their decisions for them. But when you engage your reasoning factor, you interpret emotional impulsiveness. You create space, and that space puts you back in control. Because space creates choice. This is especially important today because we are living in a world that constantly demands emotional reactions. Just think about it. We have social media, the 24-hour news cycle, comparison created through curated online content, fear-based marketing designed to trigger insecurity and push you toward a purchase. Much of it is built to bypass thoughtful consideration and provoke emotional response. Reason reminds you to stop and ask questions. Is this true? Is this useful? Is this helping me move forward? Do I even need to give my energy to this? Those questions, they matter because the quality of your life is deeply connected to the quality of what you consistently allow to take up space in your mind. Now let's talk about the faculty that is, quite frankly, closest to my heart, and that's intuition. Intuition is your quiet inner guide. This is the one lesson my father most deeply impressed upon me during the final days of his beautiful life. The thing about intuition is that it's subtle. It's not loud. It doesn't usually demand attention. More often, it shows up as a feeling, an inner knowing, a quiet nudge, a sense of direction. And because it is subtle, it's easy to override. We are heavily conditioned to listen to the loudest voice, the strongest opinion, or the external evidence that is right in front of us. We are taught to trust what we can immediately see and measure. But intuition often feels something before logic catches up. It quietly nudges you toward an idea, a decision, a person, or a direction long before you can fully explain why. And when you feel that gentle nudge, you have to pay attention to it. You have to slow down enough to hear it and trust it enough to let it become a real influence in your life. Think about trying to tune into a radio station through static. If the signal is weak and there's too much noise, well, you can't hear it clearly. Intuition works similarly. If your mind is constantly noisy with thoughts centered around fear, distraction, comparison, overstimulation, it becomes difficult to hear that quiet inner guidance. This is why making time to get into a quiet space each day and just listen matters. Next, I want to touch on your faculty of will. Will is your faculty of sustained direction, your ability to stay focused. You want to strengthen your will because it allows you to hold your direction despite distraction, discomfort, or difficulty. Will keeps you moving when results are not yet visible, when emotions fluctuate, when circumstances become uncomfortable. My father taught that will allows you to stay emotionally attached to your vision instead of becoming emotionally attached to your current condition. I believe this faculty is being heavily challenged today. The constant distraction of mobile phones, notifications, and social media has weakened many people's ability to focus deeply and consistently. In fact, even having your phone sitting in the same room can divide your attention. The challenge now is learning how to stay focused long enough on one thing to actually strengthen your will. Because every time you constantly interrupt your focus, react to notifications, or drift into distraction, you weaken your ability to hold sustained attention. But when you intentionally stay with one task, when you resist distraction, when you continue moving forward even when it feels uncomfortable, you begin building this faculty. And a strong will is essential if you want to create anything meaningful in your life. The final faculty I want to touch on today is memory. Memory is one of the most powerful faculties that we possess, yet it is also one of the most misused. And what do I mean by that? Well, memory can either support your growth or trap you in a negative cycle. Unfortunately, many people use memory to repeatedly relive mistakes, embarrassment and shame, pain, failure, and every time they emotionally replay those experiences, they reinforce them. But memory can also be used intentionally. You can use memory as a tool for healing, growth, and forward movement. You can consciously choose to revisit moments of courage, success, gratitude, growth, progress. One of the best ways to strengthen your memory for growth is to reflect each night on what went well that day. Now, that takes discipline. It requires using your faculty of will to focus on the good, the lessons, and the progress you are making rather than drifting back into reliving challenges or disappointments. Because whatever you repeatedly return to emotionally, you strengthen. And when you intentionally strengthen memories of growth, confidence, and gratitude, you begin changing the emotional patterns that shape your life. So how do these faculties work together? First, imagine a goal you are working to achieve. You use your perception to reframe challenges. You apply reason and move away from emotional reaction. You follow your quiet, intuitive nudges. You use will to stay focused. You use memory to reinforce positive belief. That's conscious creation. The reason these faculties are not often intentionally developed is that most people are not aware of them and the potential for positive change that they hold. School teaches memorization, information, technical skill, but rarely teaches emotional regulation, perception, imagination, directed thinking. And yet these are the very tools that shape the quality of your life throughout your life. Think about someone who has never exercised certain muscles. Those muscles weaken through lack of use. The higher faculties work the same way. Now connect this information to the universal laws that we've discussed. Perception helps you understand polarity. Will helps you move through rhythm. Imagination supports gender and gestation. Reason helps you navigate relativity. The faculties are how you consciously work with the laws instead of reacting unconsciously to them. So, your practice for this week is to choose one higher faculty each day and intentionally use it. So, for example, today, Monday, use imagination. Visualize a result you want clearly. Tuesday, use perception. Reinterpret a frustrating situation differently. Wednesday, use reason. Pause before reacting emotionally. Thursday, listen for intuition. Spend time in silence and reflection. Friday, use will. Follow through on something even if you don't feel like it. Saturday, use memory intentionally. Recall moments of growth and gratitude. Sunday, reflect on how consciously using these faculties changed your experience. Understanding and developing our higher faculties is how we rise above instinct and begin creating life consciously. Thank you for joining me today on Born to Win. If this message resonated with you, please share it with someone who could use a reminder of their own inner greatness. It also helps me to reach more people if you rate and follow this podcast. You can also find me on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Brian Proctor Official. And remember, success isn't about luck or timing. It's about alignment. You were designed for success, built for expansion, and born to win. I'll see you next Monday. Until then, think big, trust yourself, and keep growing.